Hey there! This is my first video on my brand new channel, Healthy Beginners. I have some great recipes to share, and this is a perfect one to start your day off either for breakfast or brunch. This is an Italian dish called a frittata. Now I learned it from my mother-in-law who lives in France. A frittata is a crustless quiche. They start on the stovetop and then finished in the oven in a cast iron pan or oven-safe skillet. It usually consists of vegetables, cheese, and meats, and of course you add whatever seasoning you like. In this recipe I will use ingredients my kids love, which are broccoli, bell peppers, tomatoes, onions, and beef sausages. So instead of beef sausages, you could use bacon or prosciutto. Alright, let's start off by cutting or dicing some onions. As you can see, I used a small onion, and you dice it up. I love onions. Once it's diced up, you put it on the side, and many of these items you will find in your refrigerator. And you will notice that whatever vegetables you find, those are the vegetables you usually love to eat. So you could put up to 3 or 4 ingredients or vegetables. The next step is getting this bell pepper. It could be red or yellow. I have yellow here because that's what I found in my refrigerator today. Make sure you clean all the seeds out well, the inside part. I will not be using the entire bell pepper. All you need is just a half a cup of bell pepper. I will not try to put a little more because it will be too much vegetables in your frittata. Because I've done this dish so many times, I could sort of eyeball how much bell peppers I need. And usually it's just about half a cup. I like yellow bell peppers, or red ones. It brings a nice color to your dish. Now this dish I'm making is much more different than the one that was taught to me because it's based on what the kids love. Some people like to put, instead of tomatoes, they would put mushrooms, or instead of broccoli, they could put spinach. So whatever vegetables you like, you could put in it. But the main thing is with tomatoes, you do not want to put more than half a cup, just half a cup. Tomatoes release a lot of water or juice when you're cooking, so you try not to make it overly juicy in the frittata, then it will not stick well when you bake it. So after cutting the tomatoes, as you can see, we will be cutting the broccolis. I usually buy broccolis that's fresh, but nowadays I buy it in a pre-packaged. You could buy it at a warehouse like Sam's Club or Costco. These are the broccoli florets. They are pre-cut already. So since they've been in the bag for over a week, I like to cut the bottom of the stems there, and then if you find any dark color spots that you don't think it's as fresh, I usually cut them out. So with these broccolis, you cut them in half. Do not cut them in quarters because they will shrink or they fall apart while they're being baked. Usually I put about 1 cup of broccoli. You do not need more than that. What I've cut so far is a bit more than a cup, but you could always use the leftovers to dip it with ranch dressing. Any type of vegetables you have leftovers, I usually make it into a vegetable tray for the kids or for myself to have as snacks. Here I am cutting a beef sausage. Again, you could use bacon or prosciutto or even turkey sausage. My favorite brand is Hillshire Farm. It just gives it a nice flavor. And this beef sausage, I cut them into thinly slices. It cooks much faster, and you get more flavor in it. You just need half of a sausage, not more. Again, this is a healthy dish. Don't want to put too much meat in it, but the dish is good enough to feed about 8 people, 6 to 8. Alright, there we go. Looks like everything has been cut. Oh, one more thing is the garlic. Love garlic to death. I always put garlic in all my dishes. I like the pre-peeled garlics. You can find them anywhere in any supermarkets. It's just so much easier. I don't have to worry about peeling them. You use 3 to 4 of these garlic cloves. And what I do is I mash it with my knife. It's just so much easier to cut. Then you cut them into smaller sections. Again, try to dice them as thin as possible, small pieces, so that you don't taste or have that texture in your mouth when it's in an omelet. You want it to be able to have a nice flavor, give a nice flavor to the dish. Next step is the eggs. We need 6 eggs. I do not recommend more. 6 eggs will fit perfectly in the skillet that I am using. Some people like brown eggs. I find that organic eggs are good as well. So it doesn't matter what eggs you use, but just make sure it's 6 eggs. And I use a fork to whisk it. That's the easiest utensil that you find. Now, one thing before you do all this is make sure you preheat the oven at 350 degrees. Next step after whisking the eggs is adding the heavy cream. 1/2 cup of heavy cream, but if you don't want anything too heavy, you could go with milk or 1/2 and 1/2. Just make sure it's 1/2 a cup. Heavy cream, it gives a nice flavor, and it might be a little heavier, but again, it's serving 8 people, 6 to 8 people. Then you have a 1/2 teaspoon of pepper. I love pepper, so as you can see, I tend to put a little more pepper. And then 1/2 teaspoon of salt. If you have high blood pressure or problems with water retention, I suggest using maybe 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt instead. And I try not to put too much salt because in the end, when the dish is ready, everybody may have their preference on how salty they like their dish. So I always suggest to everyone they could add their own salt when they're ready to eat. Now I put the eggs in the refrigerator, and now we're going to start with some butter, 1/2 teaspoon of butter in the skillet. Make sure it's on between medium high, and I am going to put the sausage in. The reason I put the butter with the sausage is it will give it some more flavor. If you use bacon or prosciutto, it already has a nice flavor to it. But with these sausages, it's less fat, the same with turkey sausages. You need to put a little bit of butter so it gives it a nice flavor and it keeps the skillet from getting burnt or dried up. Cook the sausages until it's a little brown, or it doesn't have to be too brown. Again, you want it to just be cooked enough, maybe for 2 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes, and you can take it out. Since we will be baking this egg dish, you don't need to overcook the sausages. Sausage just looks like it's ready to go. You would take that and just take out the sausages, but leave the oil in the skillet. So you keep the stovetop still at medium-high. Now we're going to add onions and garlic. Your kitchen will smell real nice. I love the smell of garlic and onions. It's the best thing. And with garlic, it's so important. It's an antioxidant, so I use garlic for everything. It's also lowers your cholesterol if you eat enough garlic. So with this dish, I try to put 3 to 4 cloves of garlic. Now you're cooking the onions and garlic. Cook until the onions are translucent, then you would add the broccolis. As you can see, I didn't use all the broccolis. It was a bit more than a cup, what I had cut. Now because I noticed the skillet is getting a little dry, the butter has been absorbed already, I add a little bit of canola oil. The canola oil will prevent the vegetables from sticking to the pan. The next step would be the diced bell peppers. You could see the nice color, yellow, green, and white. I love colors. It brings out happiness when you see colors at the beginning of the day. So there are some more broccolis. I decided, okay, let's just add a little more. Why not? Now, if you decide to add spinach instead of broccoli, you make sure you put 4 cups of spinach, because spinach gets thin and it doesn't retain its size when you bake it. So make sure you use 4 cups of spinach. If you decide to use zucchini instead of broccoli, it's 1 cup of zucchini. Now I notice also that the skillet it's getting a little dry. Instead of adding oil, I like to add a little of chicken broth. The reason is I have broccoli. It would take a longer time to cook it if it was stir-fry dry like this. So I add a little liquid instead of water. I add broth. It will give a nice flavor and it will cook the broccoli a bit faster. The same with the bell peppers. So instead of about 10 minutes on the skillet, it usually will take about 5 minutes to cook the broccolis halfway. You don't want to undercook the broccoli. I like to have it cooked a little bit or even halfway before I put it in the oven. So it's looking good right now. I always add a little bit of Lowry seasoning. Lowry seasoning contains garlic and all kinds of other vegetable flavors. And it just gives it a nice, quick flavor that it's like brings the flavors out of your vegetables. So there you have it. One more thing to add are your tomatoes. You always add your tomatoes last. So everything looks good so far. The broccoli is cooking well. Looks like you could see on the outside it's already cooked, and the inside of the stem, it's still white, so you know it's halfway cooked. Now I add the tomatoes. Usually if you use Roman tomatoes, it gives a better color. It's darker red, and it might be a little tastier in the frittata. But with this regular tomato, that's what I found in my refrigerator. So it will still work. It would be tasty, but I highly recommend the Roman tomatoes. So a few more minutes. It's cooking nicely there. Now we're gonna take out the eggs from the refrigerator and pour it in. Oh, sorry. One more thing is your sausages. See how nice it looks? Sausages and all the vegetables. It's a very healthy dish. You could go all vegetarian without the sausages. Now the eggs, make sure you turn the stovetop to low when you're adding the eggs. Add it in. The reason you want to do it low temperature is you don't want the eggs to overcook so fast, since we are going to bake it in the oven for about 15 to 20 minutes. Next and last thing is shredded cheese. Half a cup of cheddar, or you could use Parmesan, or you could use Monterey, but I like cheddar. The kids love that too. Recommendation is shred your own cheese. It gets melted better versus the cheese that you find that's already pre-shredded. But either way, if you don't have enough time, get the pre-shredded cheese and this will work well. So as you can see, it's still cooking slowly, but you can see the edges are turning out well. It's being cooked. And the middle is still a little jiggly, a little wet, but it's okay. Wait a few minutes, and as you can see, it's already starting to thicken. The edges are turning brown a little bit, and the middle is still jiggly, so that tells you it's ready to put in the oven. You're gonna leave it in there for 15 to 18 minutes. 15 minutes if you like it easy and not overcooked. So there you go. Everything looks good, and hope you enjoy this nice dish.